You've been lied to, not just by society, not just by movies and love songs, but by your own instincts. You were told women are nurturing, selfless, pure of heart. But Carl Jung, the man who mapped the darkest corners of the human soul, discovered a far more brutal reality. Beneath every woman lies a force, primal, calculating, and hidden even from herself. And unless you see it, you'll be destroyed by it. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you'll never look at female nature the same way again. If you value truth over comfort, if you want to arm yourself with knowledge society denies men, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Carl Jung wrote extensively about masks, the persona, the version of ourselves we present to the world. For women, this mask is often mistaken for their true nature. The gentle, caring, selfless face is not a lie, but a performance nature itself designed. Women don't consciously choose deception. It is built into them. Why? Because survival has never depended on brute force alone. While men evolved to fight, conquer, and build, women evolved to survive through psychological warfare by navigating male desire, male weakness, and male strength. This is why Jung called the feminine persona a masterpiece of deception. Think about it. How many men have been destroyed by the woman who once looked at them like they were everything, only to become cold, distant, even cruel? That sudden whiplash isn't random, it's instinct. When you were useful, she adored you. When you faltered, she recoiled. That was not the real her turning on you. It was the shadow stepping forward, the hidden part of her psyche. Jung's brutal observation was this: men fall for the performance. They project their hopes, their ideals, their longing onto a woman. They don't see her as she is, but as they need her to be. That projection blinds them, and when the mask finally slips, they call it betrayal. But betrayal was built into the contract from the start. The shadow was Jung's term for the hidden self, those parts of our nature we refuse to acknowledge, yet which control us nonetheless. For men, the shadow often contains violence, lust, and ambition. For women, Jung noted, it is something different: instinctual survival strategies rooted in dependency, manipulation, and adaptation. Jung believed women themselves are often unaware of their shadow. A woman who cries for sympathy may truly believe her tears are genuine, even when, at a deeper level, those tears serve as tools of control. She is not acting maliciously. Her psyche is playing out a script older than civilization. This is why men often say, "She changed." She's not who she was in the beginning. In reality, she didn't change. The mask simply slipped, and the shadow began to rule. Jung's chilling insight: the shadow is not evil. It is necessary. Just as hunger forces you to eat, the female shadow forces her to secure resources, protection, and survival, even if it means rewriting history, withdrawing affection, or discarding you entirely. Here lies the brutal truth. A woman's love is not unconditional. It never was. Jung described female love as a negotiation, a biological contract. Her loyalty is tied not to who you are, but to what you provide. When you're strong, stable, and resourceful, her affection flows. But when you falter, lose your job, show weakness, or fail to protect, her respect collapses. It feels cruel, but to her unconscious, it is survival. Men often think they were loved for their soul. But Jung warned against this illusion. What most men experience is not love in its purest form, but the maternal bargain, an instinctual assessment of your value as protector and provider. She may not even know she's doing it, but her psyche is always calculating. Is this man worth my loyalty? Or should I move on? In his private notes, Jung used language most modern readers would find shocking. He described women as unconscious predators, not because they are evil, but because their survival has always depended on evaluating, extracting, and, if necessary, exiting. She falls in love with your potential, but punishes you when you fail to live up to it. She craves your strength, yet tests it with chaos. She demands vulnerability, but recoils the moment you show it. To a man, this looks like contradiction. To Jung, it was hypergamy in action, the biological drive to secure the best possible mate. The man who confuses this instinct for cruelty will forever be bitter. The man who recognizes it as survival will stop playing by rules that were never written for his benefit. Jung called it the shadow war, the silent battle between the woman she pretends to be and the woman her instincts force her to become. The terrifying part. She often doesn't realize she's fighting it. Think of the woman who says, "I just want honesty," while punishing you for telling her the truth. Or the woman who insists, "I'm not angry," while making you suffer for her hidden resentment. These aren't conscious manipulations. They're instinctive reflexes of the shadow. The more honest you are, the more she demands dishonesty. The more responsibility you shoulder, the more irresponsible she becomes. The more stable you are, the more she destabilizes you. Not because she wants to, but because her unconscious demands proof that you can survive her chaos. Jung documented countless cases of women who appeared devoted wives, but unconsciously sabotaged their husbands. Not through betrayal or open rebellion, but through what he called strategic helplessness. The sudden migraine that appears when he needs her strength. The depression that mysteriously fades when his attention wavers. The crises that erupt whenever he is about to achieve something great. These are not conspiracies. They are survival patterns. For the shadow, chaos is life. If a man provides too much stability, too much certainty, the unconscious female psyche creates disruption. Why? To test. To force him to prove that he can withstand storms. To ensure she has not tied herself to weakness disguised as strength. Here is the revelation that made Jung's clinical files horrifying to read. The sweeter the woman, the deadlier the shadow. The perfect wife, the angelic girlfriend, the too good to be true partner. These were the very women whose shadows struck hardest. Because when repression is deep, the shadow grows darker. A woman who consciously identifies with purity often has an unconscious that thrives on sabotage, manipulation, or chaos, not because she chooses it, but because nature demands balance. This is why the man who worships the perfect woman is always the man most brutally destroyed. Jung described women's control over men not as brute force, but as emotional alchemy. She takes your greatest virtues and twists them into chains. Your protectiveness becomes her weapon to demand more. Your responsibility becomes her excuse for irresponsibility. Your loyalty becomes her leverage for neglect. And because you are blind to the shadow, you keep giving more, while receiving less. This is the trap Jung saw destroy men. The harder you try to make her happy, the more miserable she becomes. Not out of cruelty, but because her unconscious must destabilize the very ground you stand on. What does a woman fear most? Not loneliness, not even betrayal. Jung's secret notes suggest the answer is this: being seen. When a man pierces the mask and sees the shadow for what it is, her deepest fear is exposed. Because in that moment, she loses her greatest weapon, illusion. This is why women react with fury when confronted with truths about their nature. Not because the truths are wrong, but because being seen strips away the instinctive armor her psyche depends on. Jung did not reveal these truths to make men bitter. He revealed them to make men dangerous, dangerous to lies, not to women. The first law, become her mirror. When she creates chaos, you do not react. When she plays victim, you do not rescue. When she tests, you do not collapse. Your stillness, your refusal to bend, forces her shadow to retreat. A woman's shadow only respects what it cannot manipulate. Unshakable resolve bends female nature itself. Your purpose, your peace, your soul, never outsource them to a woman. Jung warned that the moment you allow her to be your therapist, your moral compass, or your only source of meaning, she must suffocate you, not by choice, but by instinct. This is why modern men are slaves. They beg for sex instead of commanding attraction. They seek permission instead of imposing standards. They negotiate for love instead of inspiring devotion. The solution is brutal. Build a life so rich that her attention becomes optional. Only then can you interact with her shadow without fear. Jung's most forbidden teaching. Your power as a man does not come from repressing your darkness, but from mastering it. That rage you hide, channel it into discipline. That lust you deny, transform it into creativity. That fear of being alone, burn it into self-sufficiency. Women do not fear nice men. They fear men who have integrated their shadow, men who are whole. Such men cannot be manipulated because their own darkness works for them, not against them. Here is the final revelation. A man who understands female nature cannot be controlled by it. Carl Jung's private notes were not written to destroy love, but to destroy illusion, to replace blind worship with conscious mastery, to turn men from victims into warriors of the psyche. The world doesn't need cruel men. It doesn't need violent men. It needs dangerous men. Dangerous in the way truth is dangerous to lies, in the way a lion is dangerous to wolves. You've seen the shadow. You've felt its grip. The question now is, will you keep living blind, or will you weaponize what you know? If this opened your eyes, if you're ready to master the truths Jung left behind, then don't just sit here. Hit that like button, subscribe, and share this with someone who's still trapped in the illusion. The game was never in your favor, but now you hold the rules.